Should you go to a one hearing aid manufacturer office? Hi, I'm Dr. 𝗪𝗃𝗃 and welcome to another episode of the Flex Audiology Show. So if you've been exploring hearing aids at all, you may have noticed that online when you look at these offices' websites, they may only reference one specific brand. Generally, they'll kind of have all the brands listed out, but you'll notice that the hearing aids all look the same, and chances are they only sell one brand. This could either be a franchise office, or for many of these offices, what you may not be aware of is they're actually manufacturer-owned retail clinics. And this is happening more and more because, as with everything else, all of the mom and pop shops throughout the United States, they've been getting bought up by corporate entities, and these corporate entities are hearing aid manufacturers. And there's really 6 main ones out there. And in order for them to increase their market share, they're buying these practices. So what does that mean for you? Really what it means for you is that you're most likely going to be stuck with their specific hearing aid brand. Okay? So should you go there? Well, like most things, there's pros and cons to just about anything, but it's worth you knowing what you're getting into before you walk in there and you're making a purchase. So today I'm going to break it down for you, and hopefully you can make an informed decision without any pressure before you get to those locations. So let's talk about the positives of it. So the good news is that a provider that only has to work with one manufacturer typically knows that product inside and out. They know what it can do, they know how to program it, they know how to tweak it to give you the best outcomes for your problems. And then they're also intimately familiar with the accessories, whether that's microphones, TV streamers, how it may connect with different technologies in your home. And because all of their products come from the same manufacturer, they typically have direct lines of support, which usually means faster service for you, possibly doing extended warranties on your devices, and just overall having a smoother, better experience with that brand. So in short, for that one brand, you're going to get a provider who's very experienced with their technology and their software. Those were the pros that I could come up with. So let's talk about the potential drawbacks. So the con is that typically when you go into these retail brands, and they're big name brands, I'm not going to say them here, but they've been around for years. They're super common. Generally, you're going to be charged a premium for that name brand, or that what we call a private label. So the main hearing aid manufacturers are going to be 𝘊𝐶𝐵, Phonak, Oticon, Widex, Signia, Unitron. If it's not one of those 6, it is a private label, or it is a subsidiary of one of those where it's been watered down slightly. Okay. If they have a name brand, like a name that you're super familiar with because it's been around for years, chances are that is a private label, and you are going to be charged probably double than if you went to your small mom and pop store. So that premium price doesn't always mean better outcomes. It just reflects that brand's pricing model. Okay. Each hearing aid brand is slightly different, and they sound slightly different, and they have unique fitting strategies for your prescription for your hearing loss. And so some features may work better for some patients than others. There's an old adage that one brand could probably help 75 to 80% of your patients, but that 20%, you may be in that 20%. And if those devices are not working for you, that provider is going to look at you and say, well, this is the best that I can do for you. And then you might get discouraged, but really the reality is what they're saying is that this is the best that I can do for you. There's other devices out there that you might do better with, but it's not going to be this particular brand. Providers that are limited to 1 to 2 brands, even though they might have the ability to order other brands. So that's another critical point. When you're talking with your provider, you want to know, okay, well, do you offer all the brands, but how's your training been on all those brands? What are your top 1 or 2 brands? So if they come back and say, well, my top brands are Phonak and 𝘁𝗍, then even though they can sell you an Oticon or they'll sell you a ReSound, they may not be doing you a service because they may not know all of the intricate details about that product that's going to help you hear the best that you possibly can hear. So if they're not skilled in those products, then your options become limited by default. And so also, if they're only dealing with one, let's say your brain needs a slower processing hearing aid, or maybe it needs a faster processing hearing aid, and their particular brand cannot accommodate that, you are going to be at a disadvantage from day one, and you may not know what you may not know. Okay. The other thing is a lot of these one brand offices, they sell what's called a locked hearing device. So what that means is that if you get a locked hearing aid and you decide, let's say the office closes or you move or you're just no longer happy with the provider, maybe they retired and somebody new came in. If you come to see me and your device is locked, I can't help you. It's literally a strategy that they have done to force you to come back to work with them. And we're seeing more and more of that. Those are going to be some of your Costco. So I get a lot of Costco patients that come in and I simply cannot fix the issues because their product is locked. So something to ask about. When you go into the office, if you can't figure out from their website, these are the questions you need to ask. Is this a franchise? Is this owned by a manufacturer or somehow affiliated with a manufacturer? Because what will happen is, let's say, the provider will say, well, we're not owned by a manufacturer. But what happens is that they're owned by a parent company, another company that owns the manufacturer. So it's essentially the same way, but they're not lying to you. They're just not telling you the whole truth. So maybe change it from, not only is this a franchise, but is this company affiliated in any way, shape, or form with a manufacturer? And that's a point that I forgot to bring up, is it could simply be that that particular office got their loan to start the office through a manufacturer. So if I were to get a loan, let's say through Oticon, I would be required by my contract to fit primarily Oticon hearing aids until my loan is paid off. So those are questions you can ask. You don't say you might not always get the right answer. And maybe the provider doesn't know because they don't own, but those are things that are happening in the background. And then just simply ask them, do you carry multiple brands? Are they limited on their brand choices? What are their favorites? What are their primary ones? And then, are the devices locked to this office? Simple question. They'll be able to help you on that one. So at the end of the day, a one brand office does have some strengths, but it also has some limitations that could affect your long-term outcomes. And knowledge is power. No one cares what your choice is as long as you understood why you are making that choice, okay? So just ask the right questions, make sure you understand what's going on and explore your options. And I'm a huge advocate of you working with offices that carry multiple brands with non-locked products that are not tied to a manufacturer. So I probably have a little bit of bias on this, which is why I struggled with coming up with pros. So if you guys have any other additional pros of working with those types of organizations, drop me a line because I'm always here to learn new things. Hope you guys are having a great day.